I made a game in 3 days for the 5th Brackeys Game Jam around the theme Stronger Together. In this game you have some small characters. You have to merge them so they become stronger and they can defeat these dangerous squares before they grow bigger. Actually they are spheres and cubes, but that doesn't matter right now. I'm Mark and in this channel I make game dev videos. If you are interested in that, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out the next videos. After the theme was announced, I started to create an amazing drawing. Here's a level. The circles are your characters and these diamond-shaped things are the enemies. You have to defeat them all and then send your characters through the portal, which is the star in this image. The enemies come in different sizes. The small ones are destroyable by one character, but you need to merge your characters if you want to destroy the bigger ones. And of course you want to, because this is the goal of the game. At the beginning I experimented with the camera and positioning and I decided that it will be a 2D top-down game. Because I wanted to finish the game in 3 days, I needed simple graphics, so I used cubes and spheres, and that's all. That also means that this time I didn't delete a single default cube, and I'm proud of that. After I designed a simple level, I had to make the player movement. Basically, the player can move in 4 directions, left, right, up and down, by pressing W, ASD or the arrow keys. The only thing I had to pay attention to was not letting the player walk through walls. So now I can move around the level, but my characters can't interact with each other, so I made a merging system. This is very simple. After you move, the game checks if you've collided with another character. If yes, one of the characters should be destroyed and the other should grow bigger. Just make sure it works as well when you move the smaller one into the bigger one. After the merging system was finished, I made the enemies. If you collide with an enemy and you are bigger, you destroy it, otherwise it's game over for you and you have to restart the level. So now you can already lose the game, but the winning option is missing. In order to win the game, you have to destroy all enemies and reach the portal with every circles you have. To be able to make more interesting puzzles, I also let the player change the active character at any time. So you can choose which one of them you want to control by clicking on one of them. I wanted the selected character to stand out from the rest, so I added a little bit of bloom. Just a tiny little bit. Perfect. Another problem is that the enemies are so boring. They are just standing in one place and do nothing. We need to make something about that as well. I made a simple counter system, so after X steps, the enemies grow a little bit. This means you have to be fast to defeat them, and you also have to pay attention to the order of your moves. I made a beautiful UI to display the number of steps you have left before the growth. When you merge your characters, this counter resets itself, so you gain some extra time. At the end of day 1, I wanted to sleep calmly, but look at the game, it's so ugly. To solve this problem, I chose a color palette and set the colors based on that. And to make the portal more interesting, I added some particle effects. For that, I used Unity's particle system. I like VFX Graph more, but that doesn't work on browser builds, so I couldn't use that now. On the beginning of second day, I recorded and edited the sound effects for destroying enemies, dying, enemy growth and moving. For the remaining ones, I just put some notes together in FL Studio. At this point, the game started to come to life, but some animations are missing. Now everything happens suddenly, which isn't really appealing. So first I made the merging, then the growing and the moving animation. After that, I also wanted to make destroying enemies much more fun, so I added an effect to that as well. Basically, when you destroy an enemy, a bunch of little cubes spawn and explode. This effect can be achieved by spawning them and adding force to different directions, but if you are lazy like me, just spawn them in the exact same location and Unity does the work instead of you. The die animation works exactly the same, just with circles instead of cubes. And I have great news, the game is finished. Just some more levels needed. I needed the main menu and the level selector screen. For the sake of simplicity, I made a main menu where you can choose which level you want to play, so I needed only one screen instead of two. There's a grid for the levels. Each level has a button, which is green if you completed that level and red if you haven't. I planned to make 30 levels. I didn't want to spend too much time on the saving and loading system, so I decided to store everything in only one integer. From every level, I needed only one information: if the player completed it or not, so true or false. Basically, computers store everything as binary numbers, so they use only zeros and ones. If I take a 32-bit integer, I have 32 bits, which can be 0 or 1. The first bit represents the first level. It is 1 if the player completed the level, 0 if not. The second bit belongs to the second level, the third bit to the third level, and so on. This way, if the player completes one level, I only need to update one bit in this number. Here's the code for loading. I just go through the number bit by bit and decide if it's 0 or 1. And here's the saving, where I just set the bit of the current level to 1. The first few levels are the tutorial levels, where I introduce the mechanics to the player one at a time. I also added some helper text where I can write some short but very useful information for the player. For example, I can write here, press the like button if you enjoyed the video. After the tutorial levels, I made a lot of other ones. When making the levels, first I place everything nearly randomly. Then I try to solve the level, and if it's too easy, I make it harder, and if it's too hard, I make it easier. I try to slowly increase the difficulty curve between levels and give more and more challenge to the players in the later levels. I think the last few levels are really hard. Try out the game if you don't believe it. Link is in the description. On the last few hours, I made the music for the game and some nice background particles, which added very much to the game, I think. Watch the video on the screen right now if you wanna see another video like this, and write down in the comment section which level you found the most difficult.